Who let this black kid into my classroom? Professor Hartwell's voice echoed through the lecture hall. 23 years of tenure. 6 figures. Untouchable. You, back row, the black one, stand up. Isaiah Parker rose. 19. Silent. Look at this. A black face in advanced number theory. Hartwell laughed. Food stamp family? Section 8 housing? Did your welfare caseworker fill out your application? Or did some diversity committee drag you here to meet their quota? He grabbed the chalk. I'm going to write an impossible equation. PhDs have failed, geniuses have quit. And you, ghetto trash, you're going to prove why black kids don't belong in real mathematics. The chalk scratched against the board. Isaiah stared at the equation. What Hartwell did next would cost him everything. His career, his reputation, his deepest secret. Comment where you're listening from. Subscribe to Beat Stories. Let me tell you who Isaiah Parker really was. Because Professor Hartwell had no idea, not a clue, and that ignorance would destroy him. Isaiah was 19 years old, a sophomore at Whitmore University, the youngest student in advanced number theory by 2 full years. Every day he sat in the back row, same seat, same corner, the spot where nobody looked twice. He never raised his hand, never volunteered answers, never showed anyone what he could really do. His homework was correct but unremarkable. B+ average, nothing special, nothing threatening. That was intentional. See, Isaiah had learned something early, a lesson his grandmother taught him when he was just a boy. Don't let them see everything you got. Save something for when you need it. Being seen had a cost. Being noticed meant being targeted. In his neighborhood, in his schools, in every space where black boys were expected to fail. So Isaiah made himself invisible, a ghost in plain sight. But here's what nobody knew, what nobody could have guessed. Mini cliffhanger. Isaiah Parker had been solving graduate-level mathematics since he was 15 years old. Self-taught. No tutor, no prep school, no expensive programs, no connections. Just him. Late nights, cold coffee, and a stack of notebooks he found in his grandmother's attic when he was 13. Those notebooks changed everything. They didn't belong to Isaiah. They belonged to his father, a man named James Parker, a man who died when Isaiah was only 6 years old. Isaiah barely remembered him, just fragments, pieces of a puzzle he could never complete. A warm hand on his shoulder, the smell of chalk dust on clothing, a deep voice saying words that burned into his memory forever. Numbers don't lie, son. People do. That was it. That was all he had of his father. A sentence, a feeling, a ghost. His mother never talked about James. Whenever Isaiah asked questions, she changed the subject. Her eyes would go distant, her voice would tighten, and eventually, Isaiah stopped asking. His grandmother wasn't much better. She'd just shake her head and say, "Your daddy was a good man." The world wasn't good to him. For 13 years, that's all Isaiah knew. His father was good. The world was cruel. End of story. Then he found the notebooks. Mini cliffhanger, hidden in the attic, covered in dust, waiting for him. Saw pages and pages of equations, proofs, theories, mathematical ideas that Isaiah couldn't even begin to understand. And margin notes, hundreds of them, written in handwriting that felt strangely familiar. Isaiah didn't know it then, but he was looking at his father's mind, his father's dreams, his father's unfinished work. It took years to decode. Isaiah would come home from school, ignore his homework, and study those notebooks instead, teaching himself, piece by piece, symbol by symbol. By 15, he wasn't just reading his father's work. He was continuing it. By 17, he was solving problems that most graduate students couldn't touch. By 19, he was quietly, invisibly, one of the most talented mathematicians at Whitmore University. And nobody knew. Not his professors, not his classmates, not even his mother. Isaiah kept his gift hidden, protected, saved for when he needed it. He didn't know that moment was coming. He didn't know a 23-year secret was about to explode. He didn't know his father's past was waiting for him in a Whitmore classroom. Mini cliffhanger. Now let me tell you about the man at the front of that classroom, Professor Richard Hartwell, the man who thought he was untouchable. Hartwell was 58 years old, tenured for 22 years, published in journals that most mathematicians only dreamed about. He ran his classroom like a kingdom, and he was the king. Students called his course the graveyard, where GPAs went to die, where dreams got buried, where ambitious young minds learned their place. Hartwell liked it that way. He enjoyed the fear, the power, the control. He prided himself on maintaining standards. That was his favorite phrase. Said it at every faculty meeting, every department review, every time someone questioned his methods. I'm maintaining standards, weeding out students who don't belong. He never specified what don't belong meant. He didn't have to. Everyone understood. 3 formal complaints of racial bias in 5 years. 3 black students who said Hartwell targeted them, humiliated them, drove them out. All 3 complaints dismissed. Insufficient evidence. Hartwell had friends in the administration, powerful friends, the kind who made problems disappear. Mini cliffhanger. But Hartwell had a secret, one he'd been hiding for 24 years, and it was about to walk right through his door. Every few years, a student would slip through Hartwell's filters, someone who didn't fit his image of excellence, someone who looked different, sounded different, came from the wrong neighborhood, and every time Hartwell found a way to put them in their place. A public question designed to embarrass, a problem meant to humiliate, a grade that pushed them toward the exit. It always worked. For 2 decades, it always worked. The students would doubt themselves, drop out, transfer, disappear, and Hartwell would smile. Standards maintained, kingdom protected. He had no idea that Isaiah Parker was different, that this quiet black kid from the south side of Chicago carried something Hartwell couldn't imagine, a gift inherited from a man Hartwell had destroyed 24 years ago, a man named James Parker, Isaiah's father. October 15th, 2:00 p.m., room 248, advanced number theory. Isaiah walked in like every other day, backpack over one shoulder, eyes down, invisible. He took his usual seat. Back row. Far corner. The chair that faced the exit. 40 other students filled the room, mostly juniors and seniors, mostly white, mostly from families that could afford Whitmore's $50,000 tuition. Isaiah was the exception. Scholarship kid, work study, night shifts at a warehouse to cover what financial aid didn't. He didn't complain. He just showed up, did the work, stayed invisible. Professor Hartwell was already at the front when Isaiah sat down, chalk in hand, a strange energy in the room. Good afternoon, class. Hartwell's voice had an edge, a sharpness that made students sit up straighter. Today we're going to have some fun. A few students exchanged glances. Fun in Hartwell's class usually meant someone was about to suffer. So, mini cliffhanger. Hartwell smiled, the kind of smile that made you want to run. I have a challenge problem, something special, something I've kept for years. He walked to the board, drew a line across it with the chalk. Anyone who solves this equation gets automatic extra credit, enough to guarantee an A for the semester, no matter what. Whispers rippled through the room. An automatic A? In Hartwell's class? That had never happened. Ever. But here's the catch. The whispers died. If you try and fail, and you will fail, you drop one full letter grade immediately. No appeals, no second chances. Silence. Nobody moved. Nobody volunteered. Hartwell scanned the room, his eyes moving from face to face, searching for something. Then his gaze stopped. Back row. Far corner. Isaiah. Mini cliffhanger. Mr. Parker. Son. Isaiah's stomach dropped. Yes, sir? You've been very quiet this semester, sitting back there, doing the minimum, almost like you're hiding something. A few students turned around, staring, judging. Stand up. Isaiah stood, slowly. Come to the front. Let's see what you've really got. Isaiah walked forward, each step heavier than the last. He could feel the eyes on him, 40 students watching, waiting for him to fail. Hartwell handed him the chalk. Their fingers touched for a moment. Hartwell's skin was cold. This is an equation from a 1986 paper. Mathematicians have worked on it for decades. PhD students have tried. Professors have tried. Nobody has solved it. He leaned closer, voice dropping to a whisper that only Isaiah could hear. Between you and me, I don't think you'll last 30 seconds. Then louder, for the class. 5 minutes, Mr. Parker. Impress me, or drop my class today. Mini cliffhanger. Hartwell turned to the board and started writing. The equation that would destroy his career. The chalk squeaked against the blackboard, numbers and symbols spreading like a virus. It was complex, layered, the kind of problem that made experienced mathematicians sweat. A modified Diophantine equation, variables tangled together like a puzzle designed by someone cruel, notation that most undergraduates wouldn't even recognize. Hartwell stepped back, admired his work, crossed his arms. Your 5 minutes starts now. Isaiah stared at the board. His heart should have been pounding. His hands should have been shaking. Every instinct should have told him to surrender. Say he couldn't do it. Sit back down. Survive. But something else was happening. Something stirring in the back of his mind. A memory. A recognition. He'd seen this equation before. Mini cliffhanger. In a notebook, with his father's handwriting, dated 1994-10, the world narrowed. The classroom disappeared. The watching students faded to nothing. All Isaiah could see was the board. All he could hear was his father's voice. Numbers don't lie, son. People do. His father had worked on this exact problem 24 years ago, in notebooks that nobody else had ever seen, and in the margin, 3 words: solved, method C. Isaiah remembered the solution, every step, every transformation, every elegant twist that made the impossible possible. He raised the chalk. What are you doing? Hartwell laughed. Don't embarrass yourself, just admit you can't. Isaiah started writing. His hand moved with certainty, numbers flowing, symbols aligning. His approach was unconventional, nothing like the textbook methods, nothing like anything Hartwell had ever seen. Because it wasn't from a textbook. It was from a dead man's notebook, a method that had never been published, never been shared, until now. Mini cliffhanger. Hartwell's smile disappeared. 30 seconds. Isaiah kept writing. One student leaned forward, then another. Something was happening, something unexpected. 60 seconds. The board was filling up, the solution taking shape. Hartwell stepped closer, his face pale, his eyes scanning the work. That method, that's not... Where did you... Isaiah didn't respond, didn't slow down, didn't look back. 90 seconds. He set down the chalk, stepped back, turned around. Done. Mini cliffhanger. 94 seconds. That's how long it took to solve an equation that had stumped mathematicians for 40 years. Yeah. The classroom was frozen. Hartwell stared at the board, his eyes moving across the solution, checking, rechecking, looking for a mistake. There wasn't one. The solution was complete, correct, elegant. That's not possible. Hartwell's voice cracked. That's not... You couldn't... It's correct, sir. Isaiah's voice was steady. You can verify it. One student started clapping, then another, then more. Stop! Hartwell raised his hand. Everyone, stop! The applause died, but the damage was done. A 19-year-old black student from the South Side had just solved what a tenured professor couldn't, in front of 40 witnesses. Hartwell spun around, face red, hands trembling. Where did you learn that method? That approach isn't in any textbook. My father taught me. Your father? Hartwell's voice changed, something flickering behind his eyes. Who is your father? His name was James Parker. He died when I was 6. For 1 second, just one, Hartwell's mask shattered. Fear, recognition, something that looked almost like panic. Then it was gone, replaced by ice. Class dismissed. Everyone out, now. Students grabbed their bags, rushed for the door. Isaiah didn't move. Mr. Parker, Hartwell's voice was barely controlled. You'll be hearing from me. Word spread like wildfire. By dinner, half the campus was talking, the story growing with each retelling. Did you hear? Some sophomore solved Hartwell's impossible equation. In under 2 minutes, made the old man lose his mind. A black kid from Chicago. Never said a word all semester. Then boom. Students who'd never taken a math class were discussing it. Isaiah Parker, the quiet one from the back row, the guy who made Richard Hartwell look like a fool. Isaiah wanted nothing to do with it. He went back to his apartment, locked the door, pulled the blinds, tried to become invisible again. It didn't work. His phone kept buzzing. Messages from classmates he'd never talked to, friend requests from people he didn't know. He ignored them all. What he couldn't ignore was the feeling in his gut. Something was wrong. The way Hartwell had looked at him when he said his father's name. That wasn't surprise. That was recognition. That was fear. Mini cliffhanger. 2 days later, Isaiah learned why. The email arrived at 3:47 p.m. Subject, academic integrity violation. Immediate meeting required. Isaiah read it 3 times. Each time the words hit harder. Academic integrity violation. That meant cheating. That meant expulsion. That meant everything he'd worked for. Gone. He walked into Hartwell's office at 4 o'clock p.m. sharp. The door closed behind him like a coffin lid. Hartwell sat behind his desk, calm, controlled, a stack of papers arranged perfectly in front of him. Sit down, Mr. Parker. Isaiah sat. The chair was uncomfortable, probably on purpose. Let me be direct with you. Hartwell's voice was smooth, professional. Your performance in my classroom 2 days ago has raised serious concerns. Concerns? Your solution to that equation was too perfect, too fast, too sophisticated for someone of your background. Isaiah felt heat rising in his chest. My background? Let me put it plainly. Hartwell leaned forward. No sophomore solves a problem like that in 90 seconds. Not without help. Not without cheating. I didn't cheat. Then explain it. Hartwell spread his hands. Explain how a 19-year-old from the South Side of Chicago, working night shifts at a warehouse, barely scraping by on financial aid, somehow solves a problem that defeated professional mathematicians for 40 years. Mini cliffhanger. Isaiah kept his voice steady, but inside, he was shaking. I told you in class,